Sabres open up the preseason with a shutout victory. What did we learn? That's coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Sabres fans, and welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. And as always, thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching along. And if you want to become a part of our Locked On Sabres text club to get updates throughout the games, how guys are looking, you want to ask a question or have a comment read over the air, you can also head out to our text club, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. That's the place to sign up, and you can shoot us a text from there. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here on a Tuesday. A lot to get to on today's show as we have a game to talk about, and we have a game to look forward to. A lot of preseason this week coming your way in both Buffalo and away, last night being in Columbus. And if you are looking for these games, last night you might have found it on MSG with the Columbus away feed, but tonight, Sabres.com. So Sabres.com, you'll get Rob Ray, you'll get Dan Dunleavy for your local play-by-play and color analyst, but that's going to be web on the web only. So that's tonight, and then a couple of more games later in the week. So let's dive right in. We got a lot to get to on today's show. We got a roundtable a little bit later in the week coming with all the hosts from the Atlantic Division. So that's something to look forward to this week as well. I'll be hosting that along with the guys from Locked On Senators, Locked On Red Wings, Locked On Panthers. I'm sure that we'll see if they come with any hardware behind them with the Stanley Cup banners and whatnot. But we'll have some fun with that, looking around the division a little bit later in the week. I got a lot of good text questions throughout last night's game. A 4-0 win. The Sabres win in Columbus. They got off to a slow start, but they got some goals in the second period, and they never looked back. Bowen Byram, Beck Mellenstein, Jack Quinn, and Konsta Helenius getting the 4 goals. Quinn's being an empty netter. A lot of good stuff to get to. I don't really have a lot of problems with what the Sabres did last night, other than, again, kind of a slow start. At one point, shot attempts early on were 17-7 in favor of Columbus. And, I'm watching that game and I'm thinking, they're getting outplayed here. It's early, but it's still 0-0. And I'm like, the Sabres really haven't given up many prime scoring chances. So while they're getting outplayed, this is, I think, what Lindy Ruff, Kevin Adams have been talking about with compete level and got to keep pucks out of our own net, is when you are not playing at your best, that you still have that ability to keep opponents on the outside. Now, this is a very soft measuring stick to figure out whether that's going to translate in the regular season. It's a preseason game. It's the first preseason game. It's a Columbus roster that isn't made up of a lot of NHL guys, a lot of AHL players in the Columbus lineup last night, which the Sabres had too. It's just not really that telling of what you'll be in the season. Preseason, how I always treat it, it's more about the individuals more than it is about the entirety of the team. Now, I got a couple of questions about guys that are not going to be on the Sabres this year. Komarov is one, for instance, on the Sabres blue line. One texter wanted to know how he looked last night. Played a lot of minutes. I thought he made a bunch of mistakes, but he also, I thought, competed hard along the boards. He got an assist on the night, so fine. But again, team overall, I'm not really going to evaluate how he looked when the minutes he played with Bowen Byram, because he's never going to play with Bowen Byram. Even if he got a call up, he wouldn't play with Bowen Byram. So I like to stick to the stuff on the individual level that we got. So goaltending, forward-wise, there's a lot to get to on that front as well, but I want to lead off the show with what I thought was the number one takeaway from this 4-0 win over the Blue Jackets. My biggest takeaway was that pairing of Owen Power and Michael Kesselring that we've been assuming would be a pairing since the second the Buffalo Sabres traded J.J. Peterka to Utah and got Kesselring back in exchange. we've been assuming that would be a pairing. They've been practicing together. They play together right out of the gates here in the preseason, and they looked really strong together. I thought they seemed like two players that have been playing together for years. Now, again, softer competition. They're playing a bunch of guys that aren't going to be in the NHL. Some that will. Kent Johnson was in the lineup last night for Columbus. Adam Fantilli was in the lineup. Marchenko was in the lineup. So you had a few for the Blue Jackets, but didn't matter. They got a lot of those matchups, by the way. And again, knowing where each other are along the boards, having a clear, concise plan of how to get the puck out of your own end together. Puck movement in the offensive zone, creating chances. The Sabres' second goal of the game was a nice D-to-D passing play, and Kesselring gets it over to Power. He shoots it in front, and then Malenstein scores on the rebound. So they did help create a goal. I can't even really tell you, really how great they played in their own end, because I just thought they handled the puck so often. And that is a key part of defense, is not defending. The more that you have the puck, the less you have to defend. That's being a good defenseman. And I thought Power and Kesselring, using their size, using their speed, using their passing ability back and forth, that they showed a real ability to not turn the puck over when you got a strong forecheck, not turn it over when you're trying to make a tough pass up the ice. Like, they were capable of making plays like that too. That pairing was really, really strong. So some of the numbers from the game, Kesselring in particular, because he's the new guy, and I thought he was impressive. Kesselring moves really well. Like, as good a skater as Power is for his size, Kesselring is faster, straight up and down the ice. Kesselring looks faster to me, and he's a little bit bigger and taller than Power too. So very smooth, I thought, Kesselring on the night. Shots were 11-6 in favor of the Sabres when he was on the ice. So again, not really having to defend all that often. That's a good sign for him. Expected goals for percentage for Kesselring when he was out there last night was 84%. Really, really strong debut. Scoring chances when Kesselring was out there, 9-3 in favor of the Buffalo Sabres. The passing really is what stood out to me. The skating stood out to me, and him appearing to have chemistry with Power. Really impressive. Not something I would have expected right out of the gates. You might think they'd get some growing pains, and maybe that still happens once the regular season begins, but great first step, I thought, for those two. And I don't think there's any question about those two playing together. I heard Lindy Ruff say this the other day, that, hey, they're not always going to play together. And when he said that, I don't think that was as much Lindy saying, oh, I'm going to mix them up. I'm going to mix up the pairings. And in one game, you might see Kesselring with Power, but in the next game, you might see Kesselring with, Jacob Bryson, or you might see him with Dahlin on a given night. I don't think that's as much what he meant as game situations change. Power is the one that you'll move around a little bit. That, hey, Kesselring might not play with Power the whole game, because if we're down by one goal and there's 5 minutes to go, I'm going to want Power and Dahlin to go every other shift, and then I might rotate 3 other guys on the other shift, or just rotate the other 2 pairings on the other shift. But Power and Dahlin are my best 2 players on that side of the ice. So I'm going to want them to play 4 of the final 5 minutes. So in that minute break they get, Kesselring, you're going to play with Byram, for instance, on one shift. I feel like that's more of what Lindy meant, is the usage late in games when you have to create a super pairing between Dahlin and Power. So I don't think that meant anything about the two playing together. I expect they're going to play together all year. And when you go look at Power's numbers at the end of the season and the minutes on who he played with, which, by the way, every year, the name number 1 on that list of minutes played with has always been Henri Jokiharju. This year, it's going to be Michael Kesselring. That's a major upgrade. Could not have wished for a better first step in a preseason game, of course. Those two were the best pairing in the game, either side of the ice. And Kesselring was a big part of that. When we come back, some other observations I had in goal up front. Radim Mirtka's first appearance in a Buffalo Sabres uniform, unless you got the Prospects Challenge. So that to get to as well. And then a little bit on tonight, Tuesday night, on Dahlin and Tage when we come back here on Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. Link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, smart categorization on your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year, 50% off your first year, monarchmoney.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. 4-0 Sabres over the Blue Jackets. By the way, if you need another example of the preseason is for pulling evaluations from individuals, less about evaluations of an overall team. Last year in the preseason, the Buffalo Sabres went 6-1. Cheating a little bit, by the way. That's if you include their win over Red Bull Munich, which was an exhibition game last season in Germany. Sabres went over to Europe. 6-1 in the preseason. How did they begin the regular season? Loss, win, loss. They started 1-5 in the regular season after going 5-1 in the preseason. It does not matter. The results do not matter. So good that they won 4-0, but not indicative of anything you're going to see in a couple of weeks, in a month. So, as I say that, what else did we see on the night? While the score says shutout, you can take away from simply looking at that part of it, goalies had a good night. The goalies did have a good night. I think the Sabres did a really good job of not allowing grade A scoring chances in and around the net. If you look at the heat map on the night for the Buffalo Sabres, if you're watching along on YouTube, putting that up now, Sabres had a bunch of chances right around the Columbus goal, whereas Columbus just not nearly as many. You get these charts, like the big dark blue circle around the Sabres net, and then you get the other side for Columbus and where their attempts came from. So total difference. Columbus did not get a lot of chances in and around Alex Georgiev or Devin Levi when he was the goaltender in there in the third period. So strong effort in front of them, but what they faced, they stopped. And Georgiev had a couple of nice saves. There was one where I thought he overextended. He went too far on the right post, and I thought he was getting himself out of position. But you saw a good recovery from Georgiev. He pushed off hard on that right skate. He got back into position, and he did have to kind of give away the top of the net because he had to slide over so quickly. But the shooter couldn't get the puck up enough. And by the time he got anything on it, Georgiev slid back over, made a nice save while he was along the ice. So I thought he was pretty strong, good rebound control. Nothing where I felt like they were ever in real danger while he was out there. He looked sharp to me. So a good opening night for Alex Georgiev, and he turned away 16 shots on the night. So good start there. Wearing the plain white helmet. He's going to start with the Sabres. He's going to have to get something on that helmet. And then Devin Levi comes in. And Levi actually, I thought, had Paul Hamilton said this too on WGR this morning when he was on with me and Jeremy, that Levi only stopped 6 shots, Georgiev 16, but Levi might have had the tougher chances. There were like two really tough chances. One nice glove save that he made on an odd man rush coming down, and he looked really easy for him, even though it wasn't maybe the easiest shot in the world. I mean, the third period, the Blue Jackets had they had 5 scoring chances in the third period, so nothing too crazy on that front. But Levi turned them all away. Expected goals, it was 1.5 for Georgiev and 0.25 for Levi. So, Levi didn't go too far above expectation. Actually, by the numbers, Georgiev had the tougher night, and he didn't allow anything through. So, good night by both of the goaltenders. Radim Mirtka, first-round pick of the Buffalo Sabres, top 10 pick, defenseman. He's wearing number 57 out there. Got paired with Bowen Byram. Good opportunity for him to play with an NHL player. He's trying to earn a spot in Rochester this year. It's either back to the Seattle Thunderbirds of the WHL or Rochester. I think the Sabres are tempted to send him back to junior and not rush him. An 18-year-old defenseman playing in the AHL, that could be tough. But so far, he looks like a guy that can handle it. And maybe they just don't let him do it by default. Maybe they never were going to let him play in the AHL. But prospects challenge, training camp a little bit, now preseason game number 1. Like every time I see him out there, I think this guy could play in Rochester this year. Last night, he made the best pass of the night. He is around his own red line, and he fired it all the way up the left wing to the opposing blue line, right on the tape of Yuri Kulik to spring a little bit of a chance. He was physical. There was actually a moment in the third period where one of the Blue Jackets forwards is sitting right there, crashing the crease, and Mirtka just picks him up and pile drives him to the ice, and he started a little bit of a skirmish there. So he wasn't backing down from anybody. He threw his body around a little bit. I mean, you could definitely tell. Big frame that hasn't been filled out very much. And in the AHL, physical league, especially compared to the WHL, you wonder if that will break down over the year or what it will look like, how it will translate. But, man, last night, I thought Mirtka was really, really strong. What his numbers ended up at. Mirtka ended up on the night. When he was on the ice, Sabres outshot him 9-6. Fine, good. Expected goals. Well, let's do scoring chances first. We're 9-7 in favor of the Sabres. So that's good. Yeah, expected goals 51%. So fine. Fine night for Radim Mirtka. He did register an assist on the Bowen Byram goal, which was a nice shot from Byram. So got a point. Looked good. Very impressed. And then the other first-round pick from last year, Konsta Helenius, little more of a quiet night, I thought, from him. Didn't notice him a lot in the first couple of periods, but hard to take away from how good a goal that was to make it 4-0. That's the post empty net goal, which is always demoralizing for a team. There's only a minute left, but defenseman comes out to challenge him. He toe drags around him, and then he beats the goaltender clean. That's a really nice goal by Konsta Helenius, who was playing with Noah Osland on the night, Isak Rosen a lot too. So I was very impressed with Helenius as well. Like on the negative, I was impressed by Helenius, was impressed by Mirtka, impressed by Levi and Georgiev, impressed by Kesselring with Power. I mean, there really wasn't anybody that I thought had a really bad night. I mean, even by the numbers, everybody was plus 50% expected goals for at 5-on-5, other than Byram, Quinn, Kulik, and Josh Doan. And they were close. And I liked their performances. Of the four, maybe Quinn was the one that I liked the least, but I don't need to try this hard. I thought everybody had a pretty solid night. Sure, there were moments, there were mistakes by everybody, but nobody had an overall performance that was a tough one from beginning to end. So good start to the preseason for the Buffalo Sabres. When we come back, preseason game number 2, kind of philosophical question about the preseason when we come back and what the lineup will look like when we return. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here in the Locked On Sabres podcast, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. And of course, we got hockey around the corner, but the NFL season is here. And FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff every night with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching for your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Of course, on those Monday night games, especially too, when you've got one guy needs 16 points, you want to keep track. You can do that on the FanDuel app, or you want to throw a little extra on him, you can do that as well. It's quick, it's easy. Best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. And again, new customers, first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So, ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now, or Visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today. Wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast through the text club the last couple of nights. Got a question about Komarov, got a question about Nikita Novikov and how he looked last night. Little quiet, I thought, but that could be good for a defensive defenseman, right? Who else did I get a question about? What about, let's see here. Mason Gearston. He's a goon. You could tell he isn't a very good skater. You could tell there aren't a lot of puck skills compared to the guys out there. Lindy Ruff is impressed by him. He said it again today and last night that he's impressed by him. Like, I think he's going to be on the roster opening night. I don't know if he'll play, but I think he's going to be on the roster, and there was nothing I saw yesterday that was so embarrassing that it took him out of that. Oh, the one other one I wanted to mention. I got asked about the line combinations of practice today, which featured Josh Norris with Tage Thompson and Zach Benson. They're still together. This is for tonight's game. And then Ryan McLeod was between Jason Zucker and Konsta Helenius. And Isaac Rosen is in the bottom six. And somebody texted, well, looks like Helenius has officially surpassed Rosen. And I tend to agree with that. But I'm not really that surprised. Like, I just don't think Rosen's going to be an NHL player. And I think we are about at a point where we just got to stop thinking of him as a prospect. And maybe he's not to be compared to a Konsta Helenius. He's to be compared to a Tyson Kozak. These guys that you're never expecting to be an NHL regular, to be an NHL tweener. Guy that's a call-up and gets a few games here and there, and then he goes down to the AHL, and he's a really important player in the AHL. By the way, apologies. I got the Brett Murray thing wrong on our last show. I can't believe Brett Murray's not still in the organization, but he is not anymore. So that's kind of where I am on him. I'm not comparing him to Konsta Helenius anymore. So has he surpassed him? Sure. But that was going to happen. And apparently it already has. Or the Sabres just want to get a look at a guy that is way more likely to be in the league at some point. So that was another thing. While I'm in the text club, this was text in the text club. If you missed this, MSG is going to add the score bug to the scoreboard, which I forget before every year they don't have it. I'm reminded of it once the season starts, and I watch the league, and I think every scoreboard in the league has the shots on goal bug, and the Sabres don't on MSG. Well, finally, they're getting it. It's amazing it took this long. I mean, I could do that by my own in OBS, but they can't. So pretty ridiculous, I think. But whatever, they got there. On tonight's game, very quickly, because I know a lot are listening, maybe even after that, after the game has taken place. Tage and Dahlin in the lineup tonight. Pretty much everybody that wasn't in the lineup last night is in the lineup tonight. Couple of carryovers. Helenius is one of those carryovers. But you get Norris, Tage, Benson tonight. Must see. What does that look like? Also, the fact that Byram was in yesterday's lineup, and today Dahlin's in the lineup, something to track there. Are they going to split those two up? I've thought they're not going to do that. They've practiced together. Samuelson in the lineup tonight. I really hope they don't go back to that, but for a preseason game, I guess who cares? So keep an eye on who Dahlin plays with. The idea that Tage and Dahlin play, I wonder if the NHL is ever headed for a change on the best of the best players playing in these games. It's, like in the NFL, very much it's evolved over the years of the star quarterbacks, they don't play in the preseason. No need for the unnecessary risk to get reps. We could do that in practice. And a lot of the league has done that. In the NHL, it's not really the case. I mean, I guess they don't see this as added unnecessary risk compared to practice. Practice is more controlled in football, and in hockey, I guess it's closer to the actual thing. But I thought about that today when I thought, do they really need to play Tage or Rasmus Dahlin in this game or any of these games? Because, sure, get reps, build chemistry, get comfortable, get back into the flow of things. But is that more necessary than eliminating any risk that one of your two most important players doesn't go down with injury. I mean, knock on wood, they don't get injured. But both of these players have dealt with injuries in the past years. Dahlin last year, Tage in past years. Why bother? Why put them at any added unnecessary risk? So hockey doesn't really do that. I wonder if it ever will. I don't know how much they'll play anyway. Maybe they only play 18 minutes. Maybe they don't play another game. So we'll see what they do. But just a thought. I wonder if the NHL ever starts doing that, or if the Sabres start doing that, benching their star players in the preseason, because why risk it? All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. You've got the Blue Jackets tonight, and then we move on and we get to the Sabres play. I guess now it's 3, but 3 more preseason games before the Bills play the Saints on Sunday. So you got some hockey coming your way. If you want to go down to the arena, you'll have a couple opportunities for that, because you got tonight in Columbus and you got Saturday hosting Detroit. That's a 3:00 game on Saturday, and then they're in Detroit on Thursday at 7. So 3 more games this week. We'll talk about the Columbus game, part 2, after tonight's game. So stay tuned for that. You want to get into the text club to get rolling to the start of the season. Now's a good time to do it. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres, the price of a cup of coffee, and come in and have some fun with us. So that'll do it for today's episode. If you would like to check out our Locked On NHL series with all the stuff going on around the league, offseason topics, Matthew Tkachuk's injury, he's out to December. That news coming in this week. There's a lot to get to on Locked On NHL. Be sure to check them out wherever you listen to your podcast. Same with fantasy hockey. Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Steel Roden, Flip Livingstone, get you ready for your fantasy drafts. I got to get mine rolling. That's coming up as well. So fantasy hockey season, can't wait. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.